Hari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari. Janaki. Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivara Dhari. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yashoda Nandana Brajajana Ranjana. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Yamuna Tira Vanachari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Gaura Premanandi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. All together. Narayana Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jaya Mudirayat Nashta Praeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyutama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Om Jnanatirmirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militanyena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So welcome everyone to this morning's Srimad Bhagavatam class. We are going to be covering Canto 3, Chapter 4, texts 23 to 27. And the verse that we'll recite the Sanskrit of and everything is text 26. So let's go straight to text 26. We'll do that first. And then go back a little bit. Uddhava vacha nanute tattva samradhya rishiko sharavantike sakshad bhagavatadishto Martya lokam jihasata Uddhava vacha Nanute tattva samradhya Rishi Kosharavantike Sakshad Bhagavatadishto Martya Lokam Jihasata. Please chat. All right, let's do the word for word all together. Uddhava uvacha, Uddhava said, Nanu, however, te, of yourself, tattva samradhya, one who is worshipable for reception of transcendental knowledge, rishi, learned scholar, kosharava, unto the son of Kusharu, Maitreya, antike, staying nearby, sakshat, directly, Bhagavata, by the personality of Godhead, adishtaha, instructed, martya lokam, mortal world, jihasata, while quitting. So translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Sri Uddhava said, you may take lessons from the great learned sage Maitreya, who is nearby, and who is worshipable for reception of transcendental knowledge. He was directly instructed by the personality of Godhead while he was about to quit this mortal world. Purport. Although one may be well versed in the transcendental science, one should be careful about the offense of maryada vyatikrama, or impertinently surpassing a greater personality. According to scriptural injunction, one should be very careful of transgressing the law of maryada vyatikrama, because by so doing one loses his duration of life, his opulence, fame, and piety, and the blessings of all the world. To be well versed in the transcendental science necessitates awareness of the techniques of spiritual science. Uddhava, being well aware of all these technicalities of transcendental science, advised Vidura to approach Maitreya Rishi to receive transcendental knowledge. Vidura wanted to accept Uddhava as his spiritual master, but Uddhava did not accept the post because Vidura was as old as Uddhava's father, and therefore Uddhava could not accept him as his disciple, especially when Maitreya was present nearby. The rule is that in the presence of a higher personality, one should not be very eager to impart instructions, even if one is competent and well-versed. So Uddhava decided to send an elderly person like Vidura to Maitreya, another elderly person. But he was well-versed also because he was directly instructed by the Lord while he was about to quit this mortal world. Since both Uddhava and Maitreya were directly instructed by the Lord, both had the authority to become the spiritual master of Vidura or anyone else. But Maitreya, being elderly, had the first claim to becoming the spiritual master, especially for Vidura, who was much older than Uddhava. One should not be eager to become a spiritual master cheaply for the sake of profit and fame, but should become a spiritual master only for the service of the Lord. The Lord never tolerates the impertinence of maryada vyatikrama. One should never pass over the honor due to an elderly spiritual master in the interests of one's own personal gain and fame. Impertinence on the part of the pseudo-spiritual master is very risky to progressive spiritual realization. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. All right. So for a little context here, because we're still in the beginning of the third canto. So this canto starts out with Vidura leaving home because he's insulted by Duryodhana. And so Vidura leaves the palace and he goes on pilgrimage. And he goes to many, many different holy places of pilgrimage. And finally, his travels bring him to the banks of the Yamuna. And there on the banks of the Yamuna, he happens to meet Uddhava. So both Uddhava and Vidura are eternal personal associates of Krishna. And Vidura is the uncle of the Pandavas. And he's also, because the Pandavas and Krishna are like cousins, so he is also technically the uncle of Krishna. And Vidura was very dear to Krishna. He had a lot of Krishna's association in Hastinapur. And there's one pastime where, although Duryodhana prepares a huge feast to receive Krishna, Krishna doesn't want to go eat at Duryodhana's place. He chooses to go to Vidura's place. Although Vidura wasn't expecting Krishna, it was kind of like a surprise visit. And they hadn't prepared anything. And so he asked his wife, well, what do we have? And she said, well, we have some fresh bananas from the market that we just got. Okay, bring the bananas. So then Vidura is feeding the bananas to Krishna, but he's so much in ecstasy that he's peeling the bananas and throwing the banana away and feeding him the peel. But because Krishna is controlled by love, and Krishna can see that the reason that he's offering the peel is because he's just lost himself in loving ecstasy and serving Krishna. And so Krishna actually eats the peels from Vidura's hand. So that's how dear Vidura was to Krishna. And Uddhava was similarly very dear to Krishna and a very close personal associate. He was his friend and also his advisor in Dwarka. Whenever Krishna had to make important decisions in the administration of the city of Dwarka, what to do, he would consult Uddhava. Uddhava, what do you think? You're so wise. Please give me your advice on this matter. So, yeah, and also Uddhava was such a confidential friend of Krishna that when Krishna was in Dwarka and he was thinking about the Vrajabasis, he wanted to send a letter to them, like a love letter to console them, especially the gopis. And the person that he chose to send that very intimate, very confidential letter was Uddhava. So we can see that both of these personalities are very, very dear to Krishna, very intimate personal associates. And here they are sitting in each other's company by the arrangement of the Lord on the bank of the Yamuna. And of course, what are they going to talk about? They're going to talk about Krishna, because it's like you see a devotee of Krishna and it's like immediately you're going to talk about Krishna, especially since they both had such wonderful loving exchanges with Krishna. So, so then Uddhava, Vidura had been traveling all over. He had been traveling for a long time already, and he was a little bit out of touch with what was going on. And he knew that Uddhava was a little more close to the scene, what had been happening in recent events in relation to Krishna and the associates of Krishna. And so Vidura asked, how are things going? How is Krishna? How are the Yadus? How is life in Dwarka these days? And then Uddhava, he proceeded to tell, first of all, he started just reminiscing about Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, Krishna's, all of his Vraja-lila. He basically recounted the whole Vraja-lila, all the demons that Krishna killed, with the gopis, the cowherd boys, all the pastimes. And then Krishna's going to Dwarka, killing demons there, marrying 16,000 queens. He basically went through Krishna's whole, story of his appearance on earth. And then finally he came up to the point of saying, now it's the sad time when Krishna is actually winding up his Leela, and the Yadu dynasty has already been annihilated, and Krishna is about to leave the world. He says that the sun of Krishna has set. So it's a very sad situation. And you can just try to understand the emotions of these two devotees who are so dear to Krishna, and they're just like, oh my God, they just got the news Like Vidura just gets the news that Krishna is leaving the planet. Like he's probably not going to see Krishna again with his eyes, walking the way he used to see him. And Uddhava also, he's just like, Krishna's leaving. This is the worst thing that could ever happen. So it's very emotional. And Krishna also, after recounting the pastimes and after giving the news, he tells Vidura that the last time I saw Krishna was there in Prabhas, and Krishna actually spoke to me the essence of the Srimad Bhagavatam at that time, the same knowledge that he had given to Lord Brahma. That was the last thing that he told me. And Maitreya was there too. So then, after hearing all the pastimes and things, then Vidura, he just wants, devotee just wants to hear more and more about Krishna. So Vidura is like, please tell me, what was that Bhagavatam that he taught you? What was, please share with me that wisdom. What did Krishna say? He wants. I'm not going to see Krishna again. What were his last words? What were his last instructions? What was that last wisdom that he imparted to you? So this is what this section here is about, where it starts with text 23. So first of all, after he learns from Uddhava about the annihilation of the Yadu dynasty, Vidura is really distressed. But it's described here that he's able to pacify his bereavement by dint of transcendental knowledge. So this is one lesson that we can learn from this section, is that sometimes bad things happen in life. We're separated from people that we love, or people who are close to us leave this world, or just there's some tragedy in life, and we can become very disturbed. But we see here that in the same way that Vidura pacified his bereavement by dint of his transcendental knowledge, if we have sufficient transcendental knowledge, we can also console ourselves. Prabhupada writes here in the purport, says, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, due to our long association with bodily relationships, bereavement on account of the annihilation of friends and relatives is not at all astonishing. So it's natural to, feel grief when a loved one departs. But Prabhupada says, but one has to learn the art of subduing such bereavement with higher transcendental knowledge. The talks between Uddhava and Vidura on the topic of Krishna began at sunset, and Vidura was now further advanced in knowledge due to his association with Uddhava. So there are two things here that help us to be able to overcome grief in life and move on after tragedies and traumas that come to us. One thing is transcendental knowledge. That I'm a soul. I was in the room with one very advanced devotee when she happened to get a phone call with some very bad news. It was like a really terrible tragedy. And as soon as she got off the phone, she just you could see that she was just really devastated by the news. But she just sat there and she took a couple of deep breaths and she was just like, I'm a soul. I'm a transcendent being. I'm not affected by the things of this world. And she was just really trying to do exactly what Vidura did, pacify herself with transcendental knowledge. That things happen in this world, people are born, people die, there are accidents, there are tragedies. It's the material world, especially in Kali Yuga. There's so many adversities and calamities that happen. But we can remind ourselves that actually I'm a spirit soul. I have nothing to do with this world. I'm an eternal being. Everything here is temporary. It's expected that it's going to change. So Vidura was able to do that. And the other thing, so one thing is knowledge, and the other thing is association. What helped him to be able to do that was that he was in the association of Uddhava. And Uddhava had just, just described all these pastimes of Krishna. So sometimes we might also have that experience that, let's say you have a problem in your life, and then you're with people who are kind of a little more materialistic consciousness. They really they can make you feel like your problem is worse than it actually is. You may be inclined to just be like, it's all right, yeah, things are temporary, I'll just, chant Hare Krishna. And then your sort of materialistic friends or family members will be like, no, you really need to deal with this. You really need to, like, sue the person or get revenge, or, they'll be pushing you to react materially to a material situation. But then when you're with a transcendental, someone who's really advanced on the transcendental platform, and then you tell them their problem, like, yeah, it's the nature of this world, these things, just remember Krishna cares about you, Krishna's controlling everything, and they'll console you in such a way that you're just like, yeah. And they can almost make you feel like after that, with that association, they can start to make you feel like, yeah, actually this was a good thing. This is helping me to be detached. This is helping me to grow. This is helping me to take shelter of Krishna more. And you can actually start to see that it's not a problem at all. It's actually a blessing. So it's amazing how association has this effect on how we can respond to adversities in life. So Vidura is fortunate. He has transcendental knowledge and he has great association in Uddhava, so he's able to calm himself. The thing is that this kind of transcendental knowledge doesn't help when your problem is separation from Krishna. So if your pain, if the tragedy in your life is that you're separated from Krishna, then hearing about Krishna, being with advanced devotees, remembering that you're a spirit soul, that's not going to help. That's just going to make it worse. Yeah, I'm a soul. I should be with Krishna. Yeah, Krishna's God, and I'm supposed to be with... So Uddhava is very devastated, and we heard in the last section that he said, my dear Vidura, now I'm mad for want of the pleasure of seeing him. And just to mitigate this, I'm now proceeding to Badrik Ashram in the Himalayas for association, as I've been instructed by him. So Uddhava, especially now after telling all the pastimes of Krishna, it's like made his grief worse. And so he's just like, I have to go. Vidura asked, please tell me, what did Krishna say? And Uddhava was just about to leave the place. So Uddhava responds here. He says, Vidura asks him. He says, O Uddhava, because the servants of Vishnu, the Lord, wander in the interest of serving others, it is quite fit that you kindly describe the self-knowledge with which you have been enlightened by the Lord himself. So Vidura is he can see that Uddhava is going, and that's what it said in the last verse, that Uddhava was going away, and then Vidura in affection and confidence questioned him. And he can see that Uddhava really just wants to go. He's in a hurry to go. He's like getting restless now to go to Badrik Ashram. One, because it was the instruction of the Lord, and he knows that if you're feeling separation from the Lord, then a way that you can connect with him is by following his instruction, right? Like there's Vapu association and Vani association. And this is true with any devotee, with our spiritual masters especially, that if we're feeling separation from our spiritual masters, we're feeling separation from Srila Prabhupada or from a dear devotee, then we can connect with them and we can feel their association, we can feel their presence by following their instruction. And there's that, Prabhupada said that, there's that inscription on Prabhupada's Samadhi in Vrindavan that says that a pure devotee lives forever by his instruction and the sincere follower lives with him. So Prabhupada is still present, he's still alive through his instructions. And we can feel Prabhupada's presence by following his instructions. And we can always, if we're initiated and our spiritual masters are not physically with us, they may have left the world or they may be in another place, but we can feel close to them, we can feel very connected to them by following their instructions very seriously. And so Uddhava, he's feeling the separation from Krishna and he's thinking, Krishna, the last instruction he gave me after speaking the Uddhava Gita in the Canto 11 was, Uddhava, I'm trusting you to go to Badrik Ashram and distribute this knowledge to the sages there. Because I was able to speak here to many devotees and I spoke Bhagavad Gita, I instructed many personalities, but I wasn't able to make it to Badrik Ashram in this appearance. And it's a very isolated place, so I don't know how they're going to get this wisdom. Someone needs to go there. and I trust you. Just like I trusted you to go to Vrindavan and give my message to the gopis, I'm trusting you to go to Badrik Ashram and deliver my message to the sages there and the devotees there. So Uddhava, he's very eager to follow that instruction. And previously when Krishna had spoken the Uddhava Gita, he told Uddhava at that time that I'm going to be leaving soon. He said, I'm going to be wrapping up my pastimes and I'm going to depart, and I don't want you to stay here for a long time afterwards. I want you to quickly rejoin me. But first you need to do this. First you need to go to Badrik Ashram. So Uddhava was thinking, Krishna's leaving, and he told me that I should follow him. He told me that I should also leave this world because Kali Yuga is coming. Krishna told him, as soon as I leave, Kali Yuga is going to come in full force, and it's going to be bad. And I don't want you to be in that situation. I don't want you to suffer the miseries of Kali Yuga. So please don't stick around the material world. Don't waste your time here. Just do your mission and come home. So Uddhava was like, all right, Krishna's going, I need to go with him. But first I need to go to Badri. So he's in a hurry to go now. And Vidura is like, so Vidura sees that and he's trying to butter him up, like, you're a servant of the Lord, and servants of the Lord, what do? They just want to serve the interests of others. They're always interested in enlightening others about transcendental knowledge. So it's quite fit that you kindly give me that knowledge that the Lord just gave to you while it's still fresh in your mind. He's really trying to convince him. But Uddhava is not willing. Uddhava's just like, no. So he tells him, when Krishna spoke to me, I wasn't the only one there. Maitreya was also there. And actually, it's more fit that Maitreya speaks to you because, you're the age of my father. I'm just like a kid. Who am I to instruct you? But Maitreya is the same age. He's a very, learned, elderly person, and he should instruct you. So, in one sense, you can see that Uddhava, he's kind of trying to get out of it because he really just wants to go. But in another sense, what Prabhupada's bringing out here in the purport is that it was actually etiquette. It was actually the proper etiquette for Uddhava to defer to a senior person. He says that the rule is that in the presence of a higher personality, one should not be very eager to impart instructions, even if one is competent and well-versed. So, I was thinking that maybe we could discuss this a little bit, because sometimes, many of you are younger devotees, but you may be asked to give class. So, let's say there are many senior devotees, and I've been in this situation myself so many times, because I was one of the regular speakers in Alachua, and you go to give class in Alachua temple, and it's like 90% of the audience is Prabhupada disciples, and it's a little daunting, but anyways, so if you're a junior devotee and you're giving class and there are senior devotees in the audience, then are you guilty of Maryada Vachikrama? Because this is an offense, and Prabhupada says that if you commit this offense, then you're going to lose your duration of life, your opulence, your fame, your piety, and the blessings of all the world. So it's a serious offense. We don't want to mess around with this offense. So what to do? If you're giving class and there are senior devotees in the room, is it correct? Is it okay? Should they jump off the Vyasasana and be like, Maharaj, please sit down, or Prabhu, please sit down? What's the proper etiquette for us? Esther? Was that your hand up? Okay. Can you speak a little louder? I can't really hear you. Yeah. Well, Prabhupada's mood in accepting worship like that, accepting, flowers at his feet and all these things, was that he's accepting it on behalf of the Lord, that by worshiping him, he's not accepting the worship for himself, but he's offering it to the Lord. He's considering himself like a representative of the Lord. So how is that related to this question of a junior person speaking in an audience of senior devotees? Okay. Okay, so if you happen to be speaking and some senior devotee walks in, or there are already senior devotees there, then just be humble, right? Take a humble position. Don't be like, oh, obviously I'm the most advanced devotee in the room because I'm the one sitting here on the Vyasa-san, right? Okay, something else? Who else had Narottam?
I've observed some devotees do this, that if there are senior devotees present in the room, then one is you acknowledge them, that there are many seniors present in this room, and then kind of take permission that and will on behalf of my gurus and the service, with your permission, I would like to begin.
Okay. Yeah, so that's a nice thing to do, is to acknowledge the presence of senior devotees. Sometimes devotees do that at the beginning of class. There's so many senior devotees present. Please bless me to be able to speak as a service to you. Yeah. Something else? Esther? Mm-hmm. It's what? Acquired knowledge. Yeah. Yeah, and that's actually the beauty of it, is that, senior devotees will often ask younger devotees to speak. Like Prabhupada did that. Prabhupada would often ask his disciples to speak in his presence. And there's one female disciple, Kaushalya, and they were in India, and Prabhupada asked her to speak, just like on the spot. And Prabhupada was just sitting there listening to her speak, and then afterwards he was mentioning that, I become so happy to hear my disciples speak because I can see how they've listened well, how they've studied my books, how they've assimilated the knowledge. And it's actually inspiring for senior devotees to see that the younger generation is really like understanding. They're getting it. They understand the philosophy. They're able to explain it in ways that are relevant and personal and full of realization. So it's pleasing to older devotees when younger devotees speak nicely and give class, and they're happy. It's reassuring that, the movement's going to go on. So, and Prabhupada wanted to make sure that, so he did that. So, and also, the other thing is that, especially if you're asked, you may be asked to give class. Oh, Prabhu, would you mind giving class? And then you may feel like, oh no, I don't know anything, I'm just young, I'm new, and there's so many devotees who are more capable than me. But no, it's a service. So if you're asked to do it, that means take that as that coming from Krishna. If a devotee asks you to do a service, even if you feel unqualified, just take it that Krishna is speaking through this devotee and wants you to do the service, and just do it as a service. It's a service. It's just like if someone asks you to wash the dishes or asks you to peel potatoes, they ask you to give class. It's a service. So just accept it humbly and pray for blessings of devotees. Prepare your best and give class. Janaki.
I was thinking too, if you have that mood of a servant, I was thinking of the example, like sometimes it's a lot of fun to sing and lead the kirtans or lead Mangalarti or something, so you want to kind of feel eager to do it because it's fun. But whenever there's this very subtle etiquette of kind of just being the servant and whoever's job it is to delegate, then you accept that as a service, and it helps you actually sing in a more prayerful mood instead of that kind of mood of enjoyment.
Yeah.
And so that very subtle etiquette, it also helps the relationship a lot, because then you feel like you've been given this privilege or this gift.
Yeah. Yeah. And Prabhupada gives a little bit of insight here at the end of the purport, where he says that one should not be eager to become a spiritual master cheaply for the sake of profit and fame, but should become a spiritual master only for the service of the Lord. So yeah, like Janaki was saying, that sometimes somebody wants to push themselves in to to lead kirtan or something, then it can be like about me and my kirtan, and right? So that's what Prabhupada is discouraging. So the offense of Maryada Vyatikrama is not just a younger person, instructing an older person, or a junior person instructing a senior person, but it's a younger, junior person thinking that they know better, thinking that I know better than this person, I want to show off my learning, I want to get the fame and the prestige of being the speaker and, the one that everybody has to just be quiet and listen to. It's more about the attitude. So if it's done with that attitude, then yeah, that's offensive. That's an offense. But if the attitude is, no, I'm serving, I want to do this to please the devotees because I've been asked to, then that's another thing. That's a totally different story. It's not offensive at all. It's pleasing. Yes, Jose. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, because Lord Chaitanya teaches that, Krishna Tattva Veta, I have it written here. Yeah, Se Guru Haya, Kiba Vipra, Kiba Nyasi, Shudra Kenanai, Ye Krishna Tattva Veta, Se Guru Hai. That it doesn't matter what one is, whether one's a Brahmin or a Shudra, whether one's a sannyasi or a grihasta, whether one's a man or a woman, whether one's old or young, it just doesn't matter. If a person knows the science of Krishna, they can be a guru, they can be a teacher, they can instruct. So, yeah, there's no material impediment to teaching Krishna consciousness, because ultimately it has to do with Krishna's empowerment. And Krishna can use anyone as his instrument. There's nothing, if you say that, this person can't be a guru because they're too young, or this person can't be a guru because they have a female body, or this person can't be a guru because they're born in a Shudra family or born in a family of meat eaters, it's like limiting Krishna. Oh, does that mean that Krishna is not capable of empowering that person? Krishna can empower anybody to be his instrument, to be his representative. And what's the qualification? You just need to know the science of Krishna and be following it. Yeah. Esther? Well, it's a little off topic, but just to address it briefly, Prabhupada said that if a person doesn't know that something's sinful, they're still going to get a reaction. Just like if a child doesn't know that fire burns and puts their hand in the flames, they're going to get burnt anyway. Even the fire is not going to be like, oh, the poor kid doesn't know that I'll burn him, so I won't burn him. The laws of karma just work. Therefore, the onus is upon us to know what is sinful and what's not sinful. And that's why Krishna gives us the scriptures, he gives us, Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. So that's part of what the responsibility of being a human being is, to find out what is right, what is wrong, what's to be done, what's not to be done. That's our duty. Animals don't get sinful reactions because they don't have the capability of discriminating between right and wrong. They just follow instinct and do their thing. But human beings, we have the intelligence. So with power comes responsibility. And therefore, because we have the intelligence, then we also have the responsibility to use our intelligence to understand how to act in this world. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Well, karma is also mercy, So it's kind of like we're here because we have a lot of things to learn, right? We need to learn that we're not the controllers We're not supreme controllers. We're not the enjoyers. We're the servants of Krishna. So we can either learn that the easy way or the hard way, right? We can learn it by hearing from authorities, hearing from spiritual teachers, learning from the revealed scriptures, and just being like, oh, okay, so I'm supposed to chant the holy names of the Lord, I'm supposed to be clean, I'm supposed to be nonviolent, I'm supposed to be merciful, and do those things, right? So that's the easy way. The hard way is, I don't care about the scriptures, why should I hear from anybody? I know I'll live my life the way I want to and do any darn thing I want to, and then that person has to learn the hard way. Then they'll do sinful activities and they'll suffer as a result. And then eventually they'll be like, wow, well, I wanted to ignore God and do my own thing, but it's not working out too well. Maybe I should try something else, you know? And then they might actually make some inquiries about what's the proper way to live. But, you know, this world is like an educational facility. It's a correctional institution. So we need to be corrected. Because everybody here is like, you know, a rebellious, a wayward soul who has rebelled against the Lord. And we need to be set straight. So we can do that, yeah, the easy way. We just take Krishna's instructions, take a guru, learn and follow and be happy, or continue rebelling until we end up, you know, hitting rock bottom and hopefully bouncing back up eventually. So if we're intelligent, we'll do it the easy way. And then we can avoid ourselves a lot of pain. Because as soon as we just, you know, serve the Lord, then we get free from all of our karma. With the speak of not getting more karma, we get free from all the karma from our past lives, so that we can live a relatively smooth, peaceful life. But it's all mercy, because it's all meant to teach us. It's all meant to help us improve. And that's why, like, you know, when children, parents know this, that, you know, it's also mercy to punish a child when they do something wrong. If you just let them do all kinds of wrong things and you never, like, chastise them, then they're not going to end up being a very good person. So that's also kindness. It's kindness and compassion to correct. Although the child may cry, but it's the kindness of the parents. Even though the child might think, oh, you're so mean, you don't let me go play in the middle of the road when I want to. Like, no, you're not going to play in the road. And then they'll go cry. But it's the kindness of the parents, because they know what's good for the child, and the child doesn't know. So it's that situation. Yeah, just to do now.
This question is kind of based on the previous topic.
Okay.
If anyone has any other points?
No, go ahead.
So I was just thinking, like, it says one should not impart instructions in the presence of a greater personality.
Mm-hmm.
And so some people, they may say, like, Srila Prabhupada said he's present in his books, he's present right there, and he's present in general, and so they might kind of use this philosophy to say, I don't know, it's interesting to think that he's there, and he's in his books.
Mm-hmm.
So should we still, I don't know, like, some people might say even giving initiation, Prabhupada is still a greater personality who is present.
Mm-hmm.
So how can you, like, give initiation?
Yeah.
Or how can you like, give class or something sometimes? Yeah, write a book.
Yeah. Yeah, because Prabhupada instructed us. He said, I want all of my sons and daughters to become spiritual masters. And he said, I want all of you to write your realizations. You know, continue the disciplic succession. So, yeah, Prabhupada's present in his instructions, but one of his instructions was to pass on his instructions, was to teach his instructions, was to preach widely. Like, that's like one of the most clear instructions there in Prabhupada's books, is that he wanted us to spread Krishna consciousness. Whatever you've learned, teach it to others. Okay? Is that okay? Anything else? So we see here, after convincing Vidura to go and talk to Maitreya, the last verse says, O king, after thus discussing with Vidura the transcendental name, fame, qualities, etc., on the bank of the Yamuna, Uddhava was overwhelmed with great affliction. He passed the night as if it were a moment, and thereafter he went away. So, yeah, we heard in the previous purport that Prabhupada said that this conversation between Vidura and Uddhava, it started at sunset. And they talked all night long, throughout the whole night. So they passed the night as if it were a moment, because they were talking about Krishna. And so, time flies when you're having fun. So for devotees, talking about Krishna is the most ecstatic thing. Tushyanti cha ramanti cha. They derive great satisfaction and bliss from always enlightening one another and conversing about Krishna. So that's like the most fun, the most ecstatic thing to do is just for pure devotees to talk about Krishna. So it passed as a moment, and then, so you can imagine, like, they talked all night, the sky is starting to get clear, the sun's about to rise, and Uddhava was like, all right, I'm going. And then he just starts making his way to Badrikashram. And he leaves Vidura to go approach Maitreya. And Vidura does. So then the rest of the third canto and the whole fourth canto is Maitreya instructing Vidura. So we're going to hear a lot from Maitreya. And Maitreya was present when Krishna gave his last instructions. And now we are going to be able to hear those last instructions by the mercy of Vidura, because Vidura wanted to know. And he was insistent. He was determined to find out what those last instructions of Krishna were. And we are going to hear now, because Maitreya is going to speak it to Vidura, and Maitreya is also going to add his own realizations. Yeah, Tristan.
I have a small question on that last one.
Yeah.
The third canto, basically? Or, because we were saying that Krishna told Uddhava the Bhagavatam, and then Krishna told Uddhava the Bhagavatam, but then also Maitreya overheard the last instructions, so I guess I'm kind of curious what we're about to hear. Was that the last instructions in the 11th canto?
No, the last instructions were the instructions that Krishna gave Uddhava and Maitreya just before he left the world. The Uddhava Gita in the 11th canto, that was actually a previous instruction. Yeah, first he spoke the Uddhava Gita, and this is what happened. First he spoke the Uddhava Gita, and then he told Uddhava, go to Badrikashram and give this knowledge to the sages. So Uddhava was actually on his way, but then he heard that Krishna was in Prabhas, and it wasn't far from where he was, and that the Yadu dynasty had already left, and that Krishna was leaving soon, and he was like, I need to go see Krishna. So then he kind of like, he was, on his way to Badrikashram, and he kind of did a detour, and he went to Prabhas to see Krishna. And then at that time, Krishna again spoke to him, again delivered this Bhagavatam that Maitreya also heard. So it was his second instruction. And then he again told Uddhava, so, all right, now get going. So yeah, then he finally went to Badrikashram. Okay? Yeah, Uddhava got a lot of instructions. Okay, 8:31. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Gaur Premanandi. Hari Bo.